Good morning, everybody, and welcome to yet another eMarketeer Academy webinar, the second in this autumn series of webinars that we're hosting. Thank you so much for being here today, and I look forward to taking you through the topic of today, which of course is event management with eMarketeer, together with SuperOffice CRM. The gist here is obviously to use the marketing tool to handle all of your event communications and let all of the users in SuperOffice know what is going on with your event registrations, with your event participants, evaluations, and so on. So that is what we're going to dive into today. And I look forward to inspiring you on that. My name is Klaus. I'm a product evangelist here at eMarketeer, and I hope that I'll be able to inspire you if you are already using eMarketeer and SuperOffice, inspire you how to get more value out of that bundle. And if you're not using eMarketeer yet, really give you some ideas to how you can take your marketing and, of course, event marketing even further to the next step using this bundle. Some practicalities quickly. We will be approximately 45 minutes, 50 minutes on the webinar today, depending on the number of questions you have. I do encourage you to send me questions along the way. It is so much more inspiring to get some feedback for you guys and be able to answer the questions that you have. So use that questions box in the right-hand side or also of your screen. Send me your questions and I will answer the questions during the webinar as well as in the Q&A sessions. A session at the end. If there are parts of the questions that are too specific or that I just don't know how to answer, I'll make sure to come back to you via email when I've talked to my experts in-house here. So the objective, as mentioned, is really to get to know the event management process in eMarketeer and really see how we can keep SuperOffice and the SuperOffice users, typically sales reps, account managers, maybe customer service people, keep them in the loop with what is going on with our marketing, event marketing and event communications. So really just tie that neatly together, making sure that the marketing team uses the best tools that they have and that the sales and account managers use the CRM as the center point of information for everything. eMarketeer is a Swedish company. We were founded in 2002 as a marketing automation platform. We've partnered with SuperOffice 7 or 8 years ago or so and have developed a tight integration between the marketing platform and the SuperOffice CRM suite. We use SuperOffice ourselves every day, so we're quite used to talking about the use cases between these two systems. We have customers in a lot of different industries, and specifically when we're talking about events and event-driven marketing, event-driven lead generation, event-driven relationship building, we're seeing a big variety of events, all the way from small luncheons and on-site seminars to huge trade shows, conferences, and so on that our clients are doing. Obviously, in 2020, with all the crazy things that are going on, we're seeing a lot of events moving online, webinars like these, online conferences, and more. Obviously, a lot of new tools are added to the technology stack here. Some new competencies are needed. But in essence, the event communication, how to send invitations, take registrations, keep everybody in the loop, that is not too different from one platform to the other. So we have cases or examples from across the board there. As you know or may know, eMarketeer is a marketing automation platform. That means that you have a lot of different tools in the toolbox that is eMarketeer that play together to fulfill the projects that you have. Obviously, today we're going to focus on event management because that's the topic, but event management and event communications obviously include a lot of the components that you have in eMarketeer, like email marketing for invitations and confirmations, web forms to take registrations, surveys and evaluations for sure if you want to know what people think about your event. Maybe you want to start doing some mobile marketing, getting some SMSs and maybe even some mobile apps into the mix here, specifically for physical events, trade shows, conferences. Mobile apps have seen a huge uptake in use for our customers because they're easy to build in eMarketeer and they're so appreciated by event participants at physical event, at least, where you've got the agenda and whatnot on your phone. That's just very, very easy to do. Maybe you're considering doing some landing pages for your event. If you have a long event and a big agenda, doing a landing page. So as you can see, depending on how big or how small your event is, there are a lot of different components that play together to make for a successful event management. Obviously, as with any other marketing project, you want to make sure that you've got tabs on your reports and performance, and you want to make sure that you can automate everything, right? So you want to put your event on autopilot, so you set everything up and then you forget about it. So the platform takes care of the distribution, of the reminders, of the confirmations, of everything that needs to go out from eMarketeer and also go into the CRM. You want to make sure that eMarketeer handles that automatically. And then in SuperOffice, of course, we want to make sure that the right people get the right information at the right time and don't need to jump between different systems and platforms and PDF files and Excel lists to get an overview of how is our event going. So we want to make sure that we can add new leads to each report, that people can see the event activity in the timelines, and that they organize everything neatly in projects or selections, for instance. So a lot of different things that play together here. And we're not going to cover so much different event tools and webinar platforms and conference platforms, because either you have already some of these in place or there are a lot to choose from. So that's not really the gist of this. Just to show you a crazy slide, this is the MarTech 5000, which is a collection of the marketing technology platforms, services, software packages that are out there in your marketing technology stack. So more than 8,000 pieces of software out there. And if we just focus in on the events, meetings, and webinar pieces, you can see that there are more than 200 different vendors of online event tools to stream your event, such as GoToWebinar that I'm using, and a lot more. So these are some of the vendors that you would be looking into if you don't already have event tools for the online event piece where you stream the content of your event. So we're not going to go in too much into that. What I will say though is start small. Don't go overboard with crazy big platforms that are really expensive. Make sure you can test out some different platforms to get familiar with what is intuitive and what works for you. And the other thing is, think about integration opportunities. Does the platform that you're looking for or testing out, do they integrate, for instance, with Zapier or similar tools that will enable you to get data from the platform and into the platform from other tools? For instance, eMarketeer and SuperOffice, they both communicate with the Zapier application. So if you can find an event platform or streaming platform for your online event that talks to Zapier, you're really well off, because you can easily fire data back and forth between the marketing side and the SuperOffice side as well, and the event platform. So lots of different tools to choose from there. This is not to scare anyone away, but just the massive number of tools that are out there for sales enablement and marketing is just mind-blowing. All right. So when we look at the event communication piece, that has to do with getting people informed about the event, taking their registrations, sending them their confirmations, making sure that all these moving parts are kind of aligned and effective, really takes a lot of work. And a lot of events really need different tools, right? Because you need your website or your landing pages. Maybe you want to do some mobile communication, you want to take registrations, evaluations, and so on. And if you tie all of these things together with different tools, surely you can. You can use your Survey Monkeys for the surveys, your MailChimps for the emails, and so on. But you will need to tie everything together, and it's easy to lose the big picture of what's going on. So from a marketing side, you struggle with managing the event pieces and the data that needs to flow back and forth. From the sales perspective or the account managers, they don't know what's going on, whether their client has signed up for the event, whether they have evaluated, and where to look for the different types of information. So they get pretty tired of the whole process. And unfortunately, we end up with Excel being our primary event management tool. Now, with events, as mentioned, with the many moving parts, and maybe you need specific systems to do your streaming for online virtual events, there may be some Excel or data importing, exporting involved, because not all systems talk to one another, but at least we can try to scale down on the need for Excel and other external systems when it comes to at least the communication and when it comes to keeping the CRM in touch with what we're doing. So that is really the key, to not make Excel your king of your event management and do it in a smarter and more effective way. Sorry about that. There we go. So what we want to make sure with regards to your event communication is a couple of things. First off, we want to make sure that your event guests, they really have a nice, uniform, homogeneous experience, no matter which touch point they are engaging with. So the invitation, the registration, SMSs, mobile apps, whatever you create as event touch points, you want to make sure that your event guest has a really nice uniform experience with that your brand is throughout all of the different touch points really prominent, like URLs, links that are clicked, SMSs, where are they sent from? You want to make sure that all of that really ties together into a nice uniform experience for your event participant or your event guests. For you, organizing everything on the one platform obviously means that if you can do the invitation, you can do all of the other pieces because they're built on the same platform. Now, if it was just the event guests and us, you know, and on the marketing side, that would be easier in many cases. But then again, why would we be doing events? We're doing events to tie leads and closer to us in the relationship to us, either by telling them more about our products or making them buy more or having a great brand experience that ties them together with you as a company, right? So we're not doing it just for fun. We're also doing it obviously for a business aspect. And obviously our sales colleagues, our account management colleagues, our customer service colleagues, they are big stakeholders in the way that we do events and the reason for doing events. So obviously having the event process tied completely and transparently together with the CRM is the way to go. Your colleagues should never need to call you or reach out to a report or anything like that to understand, is my contact invited, has he or she evaluated, and so on. And when we look at physical events, typically you rely on a lot of external partners as well. Maybe you have hotel partners, catering partners, transport and logistic partners, event venue partners, people that need information about your event, like how many people are going, how many vegetarians are joining the dinner, and so on. And you want to make sure that it's easy for you to share data to external partners without giving them access to eMarketeer or to your CRM, and without you needing to play email ping pong back and forth with Excel files all the time. So making it easy to share real-time, up-to-date information, for instance, with a catering partner or a hotel partner or the event venue, is really key to make that super easy to do. And when they don't need access, you can simply withdraw their access to the data that you've shared with them, and then you're good to go there. So when you look at the event communications process, I want to make sure, obviously, that before the event, you start with event traffic generation, with event awareness creation, and doing that in several different channels, not only on email, but maybe you also want to reach out on SMS. You want to reach out in adverts. You want to reach out in account-based marketing style, for instance, on LinkedIn. There are many different ways where you want to draw attention to your event and get registrations to your event. Both with physical and with virtual events, I also think that a lot of us could benefit more from using the time before the event to build some hype, to build some engagement, instead of just focusing on the event. So think about how the time leading up to the event could be used to get feedback from your event participants or your event guests that have registered. What are they interested in? What do they want to know? Can you already take questions in advance so you can prepare your experts and your speakers on the questions that are bubbling up out there in your event target group? We've seen the use of mobile apps being really powerful at events. In the pre-event communication, you can put the mobile app onto the event registrant or the event participant's phone. You can fill that app with more content as you close in on the event. You can start getting feedback, profile information, and more. from these apps before the event. So think about how you can kind of stretch, if you will, or prolong the event lifetime by starting to engage with your event participants prior to the event, be it physical or online. Then during the event, obviously you want to make sure that you can track what your event participants are saying, what they're asking, what they're responding to. Maybe you have quizzes or evaluations. You don't want to wait 4 days after an event and then send an evaluation. You want to make sure that you do it as close to the event as possible. For virtual events, you can do polls like I do in my webinars as well. You can do polls and surveys. For physical events, if you use a mobile app, you can gather feedback and evaluations right on the spot. Why not send people an SMS saying you've just participated in the keynote session, what did you think? And then a link to an evaluation right there. Something to really get the response rate up and the quality of the answers up by surveying and evaluating as close to the event or the experience as possible. Now, if we use this information in a smart way, figuring out which sessions did people attend to, what did they register for, what did they evaluate, and so on, we can, after the event, nurture our event participants with the right content. Instead of just sending everything to everybody, since you know what they've registered for, what they've evaluated high and low, you can cater and construct your communication to cater to those feedback and to that behavior that you've experienced during the event. And then, of course, again, we're not just doing this for us and our guests, we're doing it for our colleagues in sales as well. So make sure that sales always have up-to-date information on what is going on right inside the CRM system, so that at any point in time, they can track back and see what did my contact sign up for? Has he or she evaluated? Has he or she registered? And make sure that that is available in the heart of the CRM. It's so embarrassing as an account manager, as a sales rep, to talk to your customer and say, hey, have you seen our event that we're doing next week? And the customer replies, yeah, I signed up 3 days ago. You don't want to be in that situation. You want to be on top of the information, and we want to make sure that that's easy. Okay, let's have a look at an event management flow that you can build in eMarketeer and feed into SuperOffice. And of course, this can look very, very different depending on what your needs are. You can scale this up to be a lot bigger, or you can focus it and narrow it down to something more, to something smaller. I've done something that I think is pretty feasible to grasp here, and then we can always add on more parts and components later on. So it all begins obviously with some kind of people that we want to invite, right? So typically you have these people in your SuperOffice CRM, either in a selection or a project where you've done your search and criteria saying, okay, this is the group of people that I want to invite. And you can then send the invitation straight to that selection or project from eMarketeer. So making sure that the invitation is based on a good quality of data. You maybe have first names, last names, maybe you have phone numbers, whatnot, that you can use in your event communication. So making sure that you can target your event participants with a nice looking invitation. Then after that, we may want to make sure that they can register for our event and use as much data we have about them in the registration. So if we know their names, their companies, their titles, and all of that, we want to make sure that we pre-populate that event registration with all of that information so that they don't have to retype or add content that we already know about them. It also increases the conversion rate on your forms there. Obviously, we also want to get people to the event that are not in SuperOffice and are not in eMarketeer, and we're not inviting by email, for instance. We want to advertise, we want to post about our event and drive traffic to that same registration page. It doesn't matter that they are not receiving the information from us. You can still use the registration form as a public way of registering or driving traffic to that public form. You can even track where the traffic is coming from, so you can see which are the registrants that are coming from my email invitation and which are the ones that are coming from social media adverts and so on. So just nice to have that all organized together. And then when people sign up for your event, you want to make sure that you send them a confirmation. And at this point, also start to build information inside SuperOffice to let your colleagues know in reports how many people have signed up for the event. And on the contact and company level, put in some notifications or some remarks there that this person has actually signed up for the event. In that case, your colleague won't be sitting in the situation that I talked about before, where they're not aware of the person that they're talking to has actually signed up for the event. So let's start here and look at some of these different components, and then we can add on some components later on in the process here. So let's move into eMarketeer, where we are organizing our event, and where we are adding all of the automations to the event. I just had a look at the questions box. There are already some questions coming in. Thank you so much. Keep that coming. One of the first questions, and I'm sorry I didn't mention this earlier, is whether I can help with slides and recordings after the webinar. Obviously, I'm going to share with you the slides and the recording of the webinar. So if you have colleagues in sales or in marketing or wherever that you think should see this, obviously you can go ahead and share that recording with them. So sorry, Miranda, that I didn't bring that up earlier on. Normally I remember that. All right, so let's dive in. As you will remember, we have our event process. We have some invitees. I can send them invitations, take registrations and confirmations. So let's look at how we organize those pieces in eMarketeer. In eMarketeer, this won't be a big tour, so don't focus too much about where I click and how I do things. Just this is for your inspiration primarily. I have, like any good TV chef, pre-cooked a little meal here for us, a little event that we can dive into and look on. I'll come back to a lot of the different components later on. As you can see, I've got some neat event campaign reporting set up here. And then underneath, I have the different components that my event communication consists of. So for instance, I have an invitation, I have a registration, and I have a confirmation. Those were the first three pieces that I mentioned in the event flow. Obviously, I want to send the invitation to the project or the selection that I have in SuperOffice that I have agreed with sales and account managers. These are the persons that we're going to invite. I want to link to the registration page. And when somebody fills out the registration page, I want a couple of things to happen. I want the confirmation to go out automatically. And I also want to make sure that I update SuperOffice, letting SuperOffice know that somebody has signed up to the event. So just briefly going into some of these, if you're not familiar with the eMarketeer, this is the editor that we're editing and building everything in. So again, this is the invitation for the event. They can sign up here. That is a link to the registration page. Just a very quick overview of the email editor here. We won't go into the specific details, but let me know in the questions box if you have anything, any burning questions around how you edit and build and link and stuff like that. I'll be happy to show you, but this is just to give you the overall idea. I also have my registration page. I can just quickly open that up for editing as well. Again, you can already see it's the same editor. It's the same platform you're using. Now I was working on an email. Now I'm working on the registration page. It's easy peasy. It's all in the same place. So here I'm taking some information about the contact. Again, all of these fields will be pre-populated with the data we already have. So it's quite easy for them to sign up. You can obviously add much more, many more questions to this registration. So if this is a big event where you can register for different breakout sessions, and for physical event, you can take dietary requirements like vegetarian and lactose intolerance and all of these things that you want to know. You can just add more questions by adding the question components over here to your form. All right, and then we have the confirmation email. And we want to make sure that that goes out automatically. So let's start to dive into the automated pieces here. So when the invitation goes out and somebody fills the registration, I want to make sure that they get the confirmation right away. And I want to make sure that SuperOffice is updated with the information in the project that I'm using over there. So let's just look briefly at the first couple of automations that I use for this purpose. So the first one is, I've called this one send confirmation. And that basically sends the email confirmation to the new event participant. And let's open up that automation and see how it's set up. As you can see, it's pretty straightforward. There are not a lot of bells and whistles going into such an automation. I'm telling eMarketeer, please send from my campaign virtual event the confirmation email. As you can see, these are the different emails I have in my campaign. When this event occurs, namely that the registration form has been submitted. That's it. So I'm just telling eMarketeer, When somebody submits the registration, please send the confirmation. Easy peasy. So we're already familiar now with the automations. So you can see the next one here. I've called that Notify CRM. We have a registrant, and this one would notify the sales rep in SuperOffice that an event has occurred. So let's look at that automation. The top piece here is now different because this is now an automation that goes into SuperOffice. I get the opportunity to store the person in the project or a selection. I really like projects when you work with events because they're just neat at organizing companies and contacts. They're neat at organizing activities and potential sales that are driven by this event. So I like to use projects for that. Selections is also an option. Either way, you can easily add the event registrant to a selection or project in SuperOffice. I'm adding an activity. In this case, I have an activity that's called event in SuperOffice, and I'm saying first name has registered for virtual event, and I want that to happen again when the registration form has been submitted. Again, pretty straightforward. I'm simply choosing from my drop-down list here what I would like to show. So let's have a look at what's going on in SuperOffice when these things kick off. Obviously, when the invitation, this is the invitation email, when that goes out and somebody clicks sign up here, they go to the registration page that's pre-populated. And when they register, they get the confirmation email. Thank you, we look forward to seeing you, and so on. Now in SuperOffice, I have my project, which is called virtual event. And I have my project members. These are the people that have been invited, or these could be the people that have registered for the event. They would all be organized inside the project here and be added when they register. Under activities, you can see everything that has taken place around this event in the registration process, evaluation process, and so on. So for instance, you can see Roger has registered for the virtual event. So this activity goes into Roger's activity list. It goes onto the calendar of the contact owner. It goes onto the project activities tab. It's present throughout SuperOffice as you would expect any activity to be. And that is a closed activity in this case, meaning that we don't need anybody to do anything just because Roger has registered, but it's very nice for the contact owner to have this piece of information on Roger's contact card. If we open up this activity, we can see the activity, and we can see on the web tab here the details from Roger's registration. So if we had more fields on the registration form, like comments or breakout sessions or any other details we're capturing during the registration phase, we can see all of those details right on the registration there. Okay, so now we can see that our registrations are coming in and our project is picking up all of the different activities because of the automations I've set up in eMarketeer. I've also added some links to the project, which I think is a really neat feature. I've added a link to the registration report and a link to the evaluation report. I'll come back to the evaluation in just a bit, but the registration report is a report made in eMarketeer that I've made available as a link here. So at any point in time, my colleagues in SuperOffice can just go in here, click the registration report, and get an online, up-to-date report of the event registration. How many people have registered, who has registered, and they can even see the traffic sources if they need. You can also hide different tabs here in the report if you don't need this much information, but it's just an easy way for people to get an overview from the marketing system that they don't have access to, but they can easily share and to make use of information straight from within SuperOffice. All right, so let's get back to our event flow and see where we're at. So we've sent the invitation, the registration is out, and we're starting to get confirmations in, which is really nice. We've added reports to SuperOffice, and we're adding activities to the project and on the contacts and companies so that my colleagues there are aware that their contacts have signed up. Obviously, or unfortunately, not everybody registers right away when I invite them to something. So I want to make sure that I can send a reminder and make that easy to do. So I can just set it up and schedule when I want the reminder to go out. And obviously, the reminder should go out to everybody that was invited minus the ones that have registered already. So I can easily set that up in eMarketeer. Let's just dive into eMarketeer and see that piece. So I have my confirmation, my reminder, sorry. And as you can see, there's a calendar here saying that this component is scheduled. And this is how I do that scheduling. I'm going to click send. And then I'm going to click scheduled send on the confirmation. And then I need to choose who should be receiving this reminder when the scheduling or when the date is due for the reminder to go out. And I use selection to choose my recipients. And then I'm telling eMarketeer, okay, I want to send the invitation to everybody that got the invitation minus the people who've already registered, right? So the first part is at taking the invitation and everybody that was addressed in this send out. So that's the first part of my selection, everybody that got the invitation. And then I want to add some more recipients, or rather take away some recipients with a selection saying, okay, everybody that received the invitation, but the people who have filled out the registration form, I want to block those. There we go. So now my scheduling is set up. I can choose a date and a time where the reminder will be sent out to everybody that got the invitation, minus the folks that have submitted the registration at the point in time where the confirmation, where the reminder goes out. So it's a little bit of clicking around first to figure out who's your target group. But once you set this up and forget it, you're assured that your reminder goes out at exactly the right time to exactly the people who you would like to remind, namely the people who haven't registered but did get the invitation. So there we go. That's how you set up the scheduling of the reminder to your specific target group there. Just let me see, there are some questions coming in. First one is from Kim here. It says, how do you put the link in SuperOffice? Thank you for that question, Kim. First of all, let me just show you quickly how I create the link for the report. So the link in this case was for the registration report, but it obviously would work for any report you would create in eMarketeer. I go to reports on this component, and I have a tab here called shared reports. And from here, I can create a new shared report. I choose what I want to go into the report. If there are any fields that I want to have hidden, if there are any tabs that I want to hide, I can do that here. And then I get a link, I get a link to the report. So I copy this link. And then in SuperOffice, I go to the project, I go to the links tab, and I simply click the edit and add, and here I can paste in a URL, just paste in the URL to my report that I just created and give it a description, and then the links to these different reports will end up on the links tab here in SuperOffice. So Kim, I hope that answered that question, how you get the links to the reports into the project. So let's see, here's a question from Sine. What if someone signed up after you scheduled send out? When I schedule the send out of the reminder, Sine, I set up the rules, the invitees minus the people who are registered, and that will be checked at the time the reminder goes out. So even though somebody signed up after I scheduled the send out, it will still contain the right target group. Now, obviously, after I send out the reminder and more people register, I will be able to do the whole thing again, saying the invitees minus the registrants, those would be my target group for instance, a second reminder that I want to send out. I hope that covered that question, Sine. Thank you for sending the questions my way. I hope that it makes up for inspiration for more people as well. Thank you for that. All right, so we have looked at the confirmation, the reminder that we have set up, and now it's time to close in on the event day, and let's have a look at our event schedule here, or our event flow. Maybe you want to include, if you have mobile phones or you've gathered mobile phones, SMS messages are really powerful way of communication. You know, when you're looking at your emails, you're looking at open rates. If you're doing really well at 15, 20, 22%, those are great open rates for marketing emails. But I'm telling you, your open rates for SMSs and text messages is close to 100. Just think about your own behavior. You quickly browse through your inbox and maybe you delete a lot of messages without even reading them. But your text messages, each and every one gets opened, I'm sure. So if you have phone numbers and you can communicate to your target group using SMS, that may be a good idea to think about how you can include that into your event process. Maybe saying, we'll look forward to seeing you at the event. Are you going to join from your phone? And then a link to the event platform from the text message there. If it's a physical event, maybe you want to send driving directions on the mobile with a reminder about the event, or a link to the event app, whatever is a good idea there for you. But just thinking about using that piece of information there. And of course, since you have SMSs in eMarketeer, you can easily add an SMS to your event communication. SMSs are much like emails, they can be personalized. So you can use merge fields to say, hi, first name. You can write your text there, and then you can link, for instance, to the event platform or to an app or driving directions or whatever it is you need, or just a nice message saying, we really look forward to seeing you at the event. You've got your preview there and your sender ID. I really want to make sure that you check the sender ID out if you're going to use SMS. You can create your own sender ID, and basically sender ID is the stuff that is the name that goes as the sender of the text message, so that you can have your company name or event name or something similar as the sender of the SMS. It just really shows that you're in control of the whole communication process for your event there. So that's how you would set up your SMS, your text, your personalization, some links, set your sender ID there, and then you're good to go. You can obviously schedule that just like I did the reminder, or you can just send it to everybody that's registered with the scheduling, and you can just set that up and forget it, and you're sure that the SMS will go out. Now, if you have a really international crowd at your event, either physically or virtually, you shouldn't rely on SMSs to be delivered, exactly at the same second. It can take up to many minutes in between different recipients get the SMSs, depending on how many carrier networks it needs to go through, and whether it's an international recipient or a national recipient of the SMS. So you shouldn't be sending an SMS saying there's 1 minute to the keynote starts, get into the main conference room or something like that. So time sensitivity is a little bit tricky when it comes to SMSs, because depending on your recipient group there and how many mobile carrier networks and roamings and whatnot it needs to go through to reach your recipient. Just a small caveat there. Okay, so we've got the invitations or the reminders out, and we are at the event or after the event. We want to make sure that we send invitations to getting feedback and evaluations. At a physical event, as mentioned, maybe a really good idea is to have an app and get feedback right inside the app. Or you can use emails or SMSs to distribute a link to an evaluation form there where people can reply what they thought about the event. And what we obviously would like there is to have SuperOffice to be notified when someone evaluates. Like a positive evaluation is always nice. It's good to have in the CRM so that people can see what their contacts have responded. But if it's a bad experience or a negative evaluation, you really want to make sure that the customer owner gets notified about that and can reach out to kind of try to turn the negative experience into a positive one. So I'm going to use automations to differentiate what I'm doing in SuperOffice depending on what my evaluations are saying. Okay, so let's have a look at that. So I have an evaluation email, and I have my evaluation form. So obviously the email links to the form, and the form has a lot of questions about the event. Would you recommend the conference to others? Would you like to book a meeting? Okay, so this is kind of a sales activity we've got right here. If they say yes, I need to get sales involved in reaching out and in booking the meeting, and maybe we even want to register a potential sale. And the first question here, would you like to recommend this conference to others? I'm going to use this as a proxy of a positive or a negative event experience. Okay, so I'm going to use these two questions to base some of my automations on. Oh, sorry about that. The invitation to the evaluation obviously goes out after the event. It's set up by scheduling, just like I did the reminder. Easy peasy, sending it out to everybody who registered for the event. Now the automations about the evaluations, let's have a look at those. So as you can see, whenever someone fills out the evaluation, I want to put in a notice into SuperOffice. Always nice to have that information inside SuperOffice that somebody has evaluated. But I'm doing another thing about a negative evaluation. Just let me bring up this one. I'm telling you, in the event project, I want to add a telephone out activity with the text saying, first name had a negative experience, please call and investigate. And I'm telling eMarketeer, please add this task to the project and to the contact owner when the evaluation is answered in a specific way, namely that, would you recommend this conference to others, is answered with a no. Okay, so now I'm telling eMarketeer, okay, evaluation coming in, it's positive, fine, we're going to store that in SuperOffice. If an evaluation comes in negative, I want to make sure that the contact owner is tasked with calling the contact and asking them about their experience. So let's see how that looks in SuperOffice. We're in the project where we are at my activities. And as you can see here, there's a telephone out activity. It's an open activity, meaning that the contact owner, the Salesforce SuperOffice user who's responsible for Cynthia, reaches out to her, asking her about her experience. So this now sits in the contact owner's calendar, and you can see it in the project here. When I open up the event or the task here, I've got on the web panel the answers that Cynthia gave. So would you recommend this conference? No. Would you like to book a meeting? No, I'm good. And then she says, I really missed live events. I don't like virtual events at all. Okay, that's good. Now I have some insights into why she had a negative experience, and I can call her up right away based on the feedback and the information I have inside SuperOffice. So that's one way of differentiating. As you can see here, there's another one saying Amanda had evaluated the event. So this is a closed activity. This is because Amanda had evaluated the event positively. So we don't need the contact owner to really do something and get on the ball. So I can differentiate whether to create an open activity or a closed activity based on the form answer. Okay, as you remember, in the form, I also had that book meeting. Would you like to book a meeting? And obviously, we want to have a few things happening there when that has been submitted. So the first one is that I want to create a task in SuperOffice that tasks the contact owner to call and book the meeting. And then I also do another thing. I'm adding a sale to the CRM. So let's have a look at how that automation looks. So again, in the project, I'm going to choose a sales type, sales to new client. I can choose the sales stage that makes sense. I can put a value, and I can put the text, first name has requested a sales meeting. And again, the trigger being that in the evaluation, they have answered in a specific way. They have answered to, would you like to book a meeting? They've answered, yes, please contact me. Okay, so I should expect a couple of things to happen in the CRM right now. I should expect to see a task for the contact owner saying, please call and book a meeting. And I should see a potential sale on the sales tab on the project as well. So in the activities, I have a telephone out. Roger would like to book a meeting. Please call. Again, you can see on the web panel all of the answers he gave and all of the feedback he gave during the evaluation there. So I have information about what he liked, what he disliked, and maybe what he wants to talk about. And on the sales tab, I also have a potential sale. Roger has requested a sales meeting. So at this point, I can generate a sales pipeline, create potential sales in SuperOffice on the project, which also obviously ends up on the sales tab, on the company and the contact tab, in all the places you would expect based on the event participant behavior in this particular form. So that's a pretty nice way to be able to fill sales pipeline, which will then feed into the dashboards and all of the stuff that you're familiar with in SuperOffice. All right, let's see some questions that are coming in here. Here's a question from Kim asking, where do you choose whether it's an opened or closed activity? Thank you, Kim. I really need to start reminding myself to mention that, because that's a classic question that comes in. So thanks for asking that. When I create an automation in eMarketeer, I have lots of different automations. These are all the things I can do in eMarketeer: send emails, SMSs, add and remove from lists, and tons more. And these are all the things I can do in SuperOffice. Create a new sale, that's the last one we just saw. I can create a task in SuperOffice. A task is an open activity, Kim. And notify a sales rep in SuperOffice, that's a closed activity. So they both create an activity in SuperOffice on the Activities tab. The task is open, the notification is a closed activity. That's the only real difference between these two. In both cases, you can add to selections and projects simultaneously, and you have the same fields, but the task is open, the notification is a closed activity. I hope that that makes sense, Kim. Thanks for asking that question. As you can see, the other automations for SuperOffice are here as well: adding and removing from selections, adding and removing from projects, setting and unsetting interest codes. Just a shameless plug, in a couple of weeks or days, maybe even a couple of weeks, we have an event, a webinar that goes through each and every automation towards SuperOffice that you see in this list. So I will meticulously go through every single one of them, showing you how you set them up, what they do in SuperOffice, and what they can be used for. So just keep in mind, we have a webinar coming up on all of the SuperOffice automations there. Okay. So let's see, we have the sale created, we have the dialing, the phone out activities, everything is tied neatly together here. Again, with the links, I also put in the evaluation report link. It's always nice to give my colleagues an overview of the evaluations that have come in. So what did people think about the conference? Would you like to recommend it to others, and so on? This is just a nice visual representation, always up to date with the evaluations that have come in. In this case, again, I put it on the links, but you can also put it on other parts of SuperOffice. For instance, you could put it on the dashboard if that's a good place, or on the web. You can use the eMarketeer reports on all available web panels in SuperOffice quite easily. So this is how my event communication process is automated, is made efficient, it's made into a homogeneous experience for my event participants, and I'm real-time keeping the CRM and my colleagues up to date on what's going on with their contacts, with their prospects and customers, and I'm making sure that their calendars is filled with activities based on feedback and behavior from the event participants. So this is really key in getting those things tied together. A couple of things for the SuperOffice users. Obviously, they're used to working with, most likely used to working with the projects and navigating around this, but there are some other pretty cool things that kind of is also in the package here. So let's say we wanted to have a look at Cynthia and see what else she's been up to marketing-wise. I can bring up the site panel. And you can see, in this case, I'm showing the eMarketeer timeline for Cynthia. She's a demo person, so I can't capture her profile image and social networks here, but I can see what she's been up to on the marketing side. I can see that she has participated in another event previously this year. I can see the process here. She got the invitations, she got the registration, the confirmation. I can see the whole customer journey, or the digital footprint that Cynthia has left behind in the process here. I can obviously click and see all of the components over here in the timeline as well. So that's just a neat way to kind of look at the entire event flow for one individual person right inside SuperOffice here. Maybe as I'm going through the event participants here, I'm figuring out, oh heck, I forgot to invite somebody. So normally you would have to call someone in marketing and have them invite and all of that stuff. But we can do something cool in SuperOffice as well with what we call a trigger form. So let's go ahead and we find a random person here, Klaus. So I'm bringing up the contact card on him. And then in the side panel here, I've chosen what we call a trigger form. This is basically just a form that you've created in eMarketeer and in a smart way made available on the mini card. And from here, I can choose different things. For instance, invite to a virtual event. As you can see, the contact details has already been pre-populated there. I could also choose other things like send white paper, maybe, depending on what it is that I've set up in eMarketeer to be available here. But for instance, invite to virtual event, send, and then an automation behind this form tells eMarketeer, please send the event invitation for the virtual event to this contact, and everything gets logged accordingly. So when he signs up, he will go into the project, the registration will go there, the evaluation will go there, potential sales will go there. So this is kind of a remote control for the SuperOffice users for marketing processes that you've set up. Pretty neat thing to have there as well. Now, the last thing, we're closing in on the hour. Keep the questions coming. We're closing in on the Q&A part at the end there, so just make sure that you get your questions fired off. The last piece I want to show you is actually on the stuff that's on top here is the reporting I've made for myself as a marketer. I want to focus on the KPIs that I care about. I don't care so much about whether Cynthia or Roger or Albert has registered. I care about the overall numbers for my event here. So I've set up some different campaign reporting that makes sense. For instance, a campaign funnel or event funnel. In this funnel, I've asked eMarketeer to chart in this funnel 3 different components. The invitation email needs to be sent. I am tracking whether people click the link, click the email, and I'm tracking whether they're registering for the form. So this tells me some conversion rates through my event here. So I'm sending the email to 20 people. That's my target group. 50% of them at this point have clicked the link. So I have 10 people who've actually followed my call to action, and 6 people out of those 10, so 60%, have actually gone through unregistered. So I'm seeing the conversion rates down through my event communication funnel, which is a good tool for me as a marketer to see where are people dropping off. Do I need to do something in at this step here, and can I improve something in this step? So that's the first dashboard or campaign widget that I've added here. Then I've got the next one, which is just simply counting the number of registrations. I want to have 10 people is my target for this event, and it's counting the number of form submissions, and it shows me that I'm 60% there to reach my target. And then at the very end, I have a KPI counter counting how many people have evaluated the event. So those are 3 components that would be nice to have as an event reporting, I think. You obviously can have different needs and requirements, and that's totally flexible for you to add just the funnel or just some KPI widgets up there in your campaign reporting. So those are some things some newish features in eMarketeer that you may not have tried out, and I think they work really well for events there. Okay, we're closing in on the hour. I just want to see if there are more questions coming in. Just keep questions coming, and I will see to answer them at the Q&A here at the end. Here's a question about the possibility to add payment for events. We don't have a payment gateway in eMarketeer, so it's not something that functions right out of the box here. Maybe there would be leeways to get payments through Zapier, for instance. I've mentioned Zapier a couple of times. It's just this technology platform that makes online cloud platforms talk to one another. So maybe from eMarketeer, you can send people to your payment gateway through Zapier and then return from your payment gateway after they have paid via Zapier as well. So that may be something to look into, Kim. It's a bit too technical for me to go through at this point, but maybe that's a venue to pursue. There's no built-in payment gateway here. Let's see. I hope I've covered everything at this point, but keep me honest in the questions there. I want to make sure before we drop off today, just keep questions coming if you have them, that I get to mention the next couple of webinars we have on the calendar. November 3rd, we're looking at new features in eMarketeer, and I'm bringing in one of our support consultants, a real black belt ninja in eMarketeer, for kind of an ask us anything kind of session. So if you have any questions, any ideas, some of your creativity is challenging you with what you want to do in eMarketeer, that will be the place to fire off some questions and get one of our top-notch experts to answer that. On November 5th, we're looking at 5 things you can do to become a marketing rock star in SuperOffice. That's really using SuperOffice in smart ways and using eMarketeer and SuperOffice in combination in smart ways to really help your colleagues understand what's going on the marketing side and use SuperOffice as the central point of communication for your marketing projects. And then, as mentioned, on November 10th, we've got the get to know all the SuperOffice CRM automations. So we're going to go through each and every automation from eMarketeer to SuperOffice, showing you how you set them up, what they do, what they look like on the SuperOffice side. All right. That is it for me, guys. Please do reach out to me if you have any more questions, any feedback. I'll be sending you the slides and the recording when that is ready in a couple of hours. I'd hope to get some feedback from you. Again, we've been talking about evaluations and making sure that we improve. Let me know what you would like to see in upcoming webinars and what you thought about this one. That really helps us design the curriculum of future webinars at the eMarketeer Academy. All right, at this point, there are no more questions. So I will just bid you farewell and thanks for joining. Thanks for all the good questions. I hope I managed to give you some inspiration to build your event communication process, and most importantly, make sure that the SuperOffice CRM and your colleagues there are kept in the loop at all times throughout your event communication process. All right, thank you, everybody. See you on the next webinar and have a great day. Bye-bye.